This is Patricius Ministries. I'm Father Bill, and you're all welcome. I was trawling through Facebook during the weekend, as one does, of course, and a memory came up from a year ago. It's a memory that I'm sure you all remember when we saw Pope Francis standing alone in the centre of a rain-soaked St. Peter's Square 1 year ago this last weekend. And, as we near Easter Sunday, when we traditionally look to the Bishop of Rome for his Orbi et Orbi message and apostolic blessing, this time last year, Pope Francis, he held up to the world Jesus Christ. It's an image that's etched in my memory ever since. And it's on that moment I'd like to reflect with you guys for a little bit today. Friends, I submit that what we witnessed there was a defining moment where the successor of St. Peter, he stood alone and he drew the world's attention to the Eucharistic face of Jesus Christ. For a few brief moments as the pandemic began to grip our countries, our cities and our lives, we stopped and we looked towards the Bishop of Rome, holding Christ high, calling all of us to seek him who gives life, he who liberates us from fear and death, he who's risen, he who's alive. It was a powerful moment of unity where, as Catholics, we put aside for a few moments our personal, political, ego-driven agendas and we looked together towards Jesus Christ in the Eucharist. It's a source of unity where I think we need reminding of once again. And look, it's no stretch of the imagination to see the crisis of faith that has engulfed our church. It's a crisis that is growing with all sorts of very serious ramifications. And one of the fruits of which we see is the unbelievably disheartening public moves by many of my brother priests and bishops actively turn their backs on the Bishop of Rome. And you know what? It wasn't that long ago when most of these people, they proudly called Pope Francis revolutionary upon his election and are now showing public contempt for him. And with this, there's a very serious threat, a real threat to the cohesion of the church. And my experience is that disunity is a fruit of weak and courage-less leadership. And you know what? If history shows us anything, it's that when there's a deficiency of courage in the church's pastors, it always lends support to the power of the enemy. Fearful spiritual shepherds are good to no one. As Pope John Paul II once stated when he was in the United States, he said, and I quote, "We are now facing the final confrontation between the church and the anti-church, the gospel versus the anti-gospel," end quote. The power of the enemy, everybody, is growing, evidence of which I think is quite obvious. Look at the three things that are most under attack in our aggressive, secular and ideological driven cultures: freedom, life and truth. And the deficiency of courage in our pastors is allowing these attacks to take root, not only in our cultures, but also in our church. And it's a great pity and a terrible source of sadness for me, I have to confess. I always understood that when the world is covered by fear, the church rises to that occasion to be more courageous. But we are not doing that. So what do? My answer is to do what Pope Francis did last year. Hold Christ high to the people of our parishes. Hold up the Eucharist to everybody. Christ, who is the way, the truth and the life. Because what's coming down the track, some of which we're seeing already in this country in particular, we're going to need to take shelter at the foot of the altar, to take shelter at the foot of his cross and to hold fast. As Pope Francis said last year, and I quote again, "We need the Lord, like ancient navigators need the stars." So true. And I pray, and I'm sure everyone who's watching me and hearing my voice, guys, we need to pray for our bishops and our priests to do what Pope Francis did last year, to be courageous and draw the nation's attention to Jesus Christ instead of fueling rebellion and encouraging division. I mean, we want our pastors to rally us around the Eucharist again. We need good shepherds and courageous leadership, which is why I hope the next Easter Sunday, actually this Sunday coming, I'm going to take a leaf out of the Holy Father's actions, and at about 12 p.m, I'm going to open the doors of our church here in St. Mark's Church in Tala, Springfield, in Dublin, and I'm going to carry Jesus outside to give benediction to whoever happens to be walking past, whoever happens to be driving by, or whoever's present in the car park. And look, everybody, this week we remember the death of Jesus on the cross, and we celebrate his rising from the dead, a real event that took place in our history and has the most extraordinary implications for our life. And one of those implications is the uselessness of fear and the worry of death. And instead, his rising the dead should pump us full of courage and full of hope, because we need the voice of our pastors to mirror the voice of Christ and to call out, "Courage, it is I, do not be afraid."